Just because Keanu Reeves is an A-list actor, it doesn't take away from the fact that he is one of the nicest people on earth. Though just because he's very down to earth and a charitable man, it doesn't mean he doesn't like to treat himself once in a while. He is known for his love of motorcycles, and he has a pretty impressive collection, including a priceless bike from one of the Matrix films. But did you know that he not only collects them, but he also makes them? All in all, his private motorcycle collection is estimated to be worth somewhere in the area of $450,000 US. Keanu Reeves might be a massive motorcycle fan now, but it's something that only became a part of his life during the 80s, so when he was in his early 20s. Apparently, he fell in love with riding after he met a woman on location in Munich who owned an enduro motorcycle, a Kawasaki 600 Enduro. Having been young and carefree at the time, he asked her if she would teach him how to ride. She said yes, and he immediately caught the hang of it. And well, now, he rides as often as he can, has a beautiful collection, and even co-owns a company that produces top-class bikes. He has even been known to say that when he films and they make him sign a contract stipulating he won't ride while working on the film, he goes through serious withdrawal. In 2011, Reeves teamed up with custom bike builder Gard Hollinger and co-founded their motorcycle production company called Arch Motorcycle. The pair takes pride in redefining the American performance cruiser. They have a relationship that goes way back. We'll tell you how they met a little later. We think it's safe to say that Reeves knows a good motorcycle when he sees one, and once we're done with our virtual tour of his collection, you'll definitely feel the same. While he obviously has several Arch motorcycles, we thought we'd start with his 1974 BMW R75/6. Now this bike isn't so much about speed as it is about comfort, and this is the theme that seemingly pulls through most of his collection. Nonetheless, it's a very special bike. In 1974, BMW for the first time introduced a separate standalone tachometer as a standard item. Depending on its condition, the R75/6 can range in price from $2,500 to almost $6,000 US. Another favorite in his collection, which also just happens to be the second bike he bought, is his 1973 Norton Commando 850 MK2A. It's been part of Reeves' collection since 1987. While he only learned to ride in his 20s, he says he has had a fascination with Nortons since he was a child, and it has always been about their unique design and persona. Whenever Reeves speaks of this bike, he speaks of it very fondly and says he has had some really good times on it. Price-wise, these beauties can go for as much as $4,700 US. Another reasonable laid-back ride in his collection is a Kawasaki KZ900. Like so many others in his collection, it has a nice, clean, classic look to it. Remember earlier when we mentioned that he seems to prefer comfort over speed? Well, this bike proves it. It's nothing crazy, but it's crazy beautiful. As for his 2004 Ducati 998 Matrix Reloaded Edition, well, that one's definitely a little crazier. But before we tell you more, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. The name says it all. This is the actual bike that Trinity rode in the sequel to The Matrix. You might remember her launching this thing off the top of a truck in the middle of rush hour traffic on the highway during a chaotic chase scene. It has a special Matrix green paint as well as Matrix Reloaded graphics. It's obvious this bike is more like a responsibility to the man, although he does admit it's quite the machine. As for its value, we can't even begin to guess. Next up, we have his El Diablo West Coast Chopper. Quite different to the ones we've detailed so far, isn't it? With a starting price well into the 6 digits, this is a motorcycle you can count on only being ridden by the wealthy. And that, Reeves definitely is. He currently has a net worth of around $360 million US. It is strange that he would have one, seeing that it's so completely different from the other motorcycles in his collection. But he once said that as a child, he was always fascinated by the motorcycle gangs which would gather in the Toronto area where he grew up. He even used to refer to them as pirates on the road. And we're guessing this is why he simply had to have one in his famous collection. His Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R fits in more with his Ducati from The Matrix, and it is also one of his most used bikes. While Reeves really enjoys taking his bikes out on the open road, he apparently also really enjoys hitting the track. And this is his ride of choice when he and his Arch motorcycle partner go track riding. He actually says that being on the track is best because there's no worrying about traffic or speed limits, and with a Ninja ZX-10R, the latter is definitely an area of concern, if you know what we mean. And since the bike itself is worth almost $17,000 US, we're guessing the speeding fine wouldn't be cheap either. Moving over to one of his own bikes now, a 2019 Arch KR GT1. Before co-founding Arch, Reeves bought a Harley-Davidson Dine Wide Glide. Actually, it's still part of his extensive collection, and while he really loved it, he wanted to personalize it. Enter Gard Hollinger. At the time, Hollinger built custom bikes for Reeves, and so the two started working together and ultimately co-founded their now highly reputable motorcycle company. So in a sense, the Arch KR GT1 became the customized Harley Reeves wanted so badly. One of these will set you back a whopping $85,000 US. Another one of his own bikes is the 2019 Arch IS. This baby will set you back a little further than the KR GT1, coming in at $89,950 US. Is it worth it though? Absolutely! Like the KR GT1, this one is a performance cruiser. In Reeves' own words, it's more like a sport model. How it handles, the riding position, and the overall feel are very different, catering to those who want to be even more engaged while on the road or track. Over to his Suzuki GS1100E. This bike has been described as the perfect balance between a la Thanos and the Mad Titan, meaning the perfect balance between comfort and power. This is something Suzuki is actually pretty great at achieving. Why does he have one in his collection? Well, to put a little perspective, a GS1100E was actually featured on an episode of Pawn Stars, which means, yes, it's highly collectible. And of course, what would a decent motorcycle collection be without a Harley-Davidson? Not much, right? It's a good thing he owns two then. Apart from his Dine Wide Glide, Reeves also owns a 1984 Harley-Davidson Shovelhead. In excellent condition, these classics can sell for as much as $18,450 US. Nothing really compares to riding a classic, are we right? And the bikes made by Harley during the hippie years are real-life classics. The next bike in his collection is a Moto Guzzi. It's the oldest European motorcycle manufactured in the world, so we guess you could say the Italian motorcycle company is the godfather of motorcycle making. Reeves owns a respectable Moto Guzzi, which reinforces the assumption that he has an exquisite taste for motorcycles. The immense history and quirkiness of the brand were just too much for him to pass up, we guess. And it seems it has served as a little bit of inspiration. Given the shape of the Moto Guzzi, it certainly has had an influence on how the final result of the Arch KR GT1 ended up looking like. However, it is the very first motorcycle in his collection that he still treasures the most. Remember how he first got introduced to riding? After he met a woman on location in Munich, right? Well, as soon as he got home from filming, he went out and bought himself his very own Kawasaki 600 Enduro. A bike with many miles on it, but one that has always managed to put a smile on his face. The oldest in his collection, but also by far his most loved and treasured.